Welcome back to Deception Reports. What if one of America's most trusted banks secretly opened millions of accounts in your name without you ever signing a single paper? This is not fiction. Inside Wells Fargo, a quiet obsession with sales targets turned into one of the biggest banking scandals in modern U.S. history, where ordinary employees were pushed to the edge, customers paid the price, and the truth stayed buried for years. Tonight, we uncover how a system built on trust slowly became a machine of deception. The Wells Fargo fake account scandal did not erupt overnight. It grew slowly out of a corporate strategy that, on the surface, looked perfectly legitimate. In the early 2000s, leaders at Wells Fargo faced intense pressure from Wall Street to keep profits rising year after year, even as opportunities for new customers slowed. Instead of expanding outward, the bank chose to squeeze more revenue from people who already trusted it. This approach, known as cross-selling, evolved into an internal obsession. By roughly 2002 to 2004, executives were promoting a slogan inside the company. 8 is great, meaning every household should hold at least 8 different bank products. At the top of this push was CEO John Stumpf, who repeatedly praised cross-selling as the secret to the bank's success. In executive speeches, internal emails, and performance dashboards, employees were reminded that selling more products was not just encouraged, it was expected. What looked like ambition at headquarters felt like survival at the branch level. Between 2009 and 2011, the first serious cracks began to appear. Frontline workers reported that daily quotas were so extreme they could not realistically be met through honest sales. Many feared termination if they failed. Complaints flowed into human resources departments and anonymous ethics hotlines, describing pressure tactics, unrealistic goals, and an environment where managers cared only about numbers. Yet these warnings were largely ignored or buried. Supervisors whose bonuses depended on those same numbers had little incentive to escalate problems upward. By 2013, reports grew more alarming. Employees said colleagues were opening accounts without customer permission, forging signatures, and creating fake email addresses to enroll people in online banking services, rather than publicly acknowledging a systemic failure. Internal responses focused on individual discipline, training programs, and performance plans. Measures that addressed symptoms while leaving the underlying incentive structure untouched. By 2014, some whistleblowers bypassed HR altogether, contacting internal auditors and compliance officers with detailed allegations that illegal behavior was becoming routine. Still, the bank's reported performance remained strong, and strong metrics muted concern. The issue might have remained hidden even longer if not for investigative journalism. In 2016, the Los Angeles Times published a major expose based on interviews with hundreds of current and former employees. The report revealed that unauthorized accounts were being opened on a massive scale and documented real harm to customers, including damaged credit scores, unexpected fees, and financial confusion. Public outrage followed quickly, forcing regulators to act. Among the agencies that stepped in was the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, whose mission is to protect Americans from abusive financial practices. Working alongside other regulators, it concluded that millions of unauthorized accounts had been created. In September 2016, authorities announced a combined $185 million penalty and ordered the bank to compensate customers and overhaul its incentive systems. The findings made clear that this was not the work of a few rogue employees, but the product of a deeply flawed culture. Thousands of frontline workers, including tellers and personal bankers, had already been fired between 2011 and 2016 for failing to meet sales quotas, even though those quotas were a major driver of the misconduct. Some employees who tried to report wrongdoing were demoted, intimidated, or dismissed. Only a small number came forward publicly, becoming key witnesses in media investigations. As regulators dug deeper in 2016 and 2017, additional problems surfaced. Customers had been enrolled in auto insurance policies they never requested, sometimes forcing them to pay unnecessary premiums. In mortgage lending, homeowners were charged for questionable fees and insurance products. The scandal was no longer about fake checking accounts alone. It revealed broader weaknesses in oversight and risk management across the institution. In response, by 2018, the Federal Reserve imposed an unprecedented asset cap on the bank, preventing it from growing until it could demonstrate that its controls and governance had been fixed. This penalty remained in place for years, accompanied by ongoing federal monitoring that continued into the early 2020s. Leadership changes followed the public backlash. John Stumpf resigned under intense pressure from lawmakers and the public, criticized for fostering a culture that prioritized sales performance over ethical conduct. He was replaced by longtime executive Tim Sloan, who was tasked with repairing trust, reforming internal policies, and stabilizing the bank. Sloan reduced sales quotas and promised cultural change. But critics argued that, because he had been part of the previous leadership team, he was too closely tied to the system that had allowed the misconduct to flourish. Under continued scrutiny from Congress and regulators, he also stepped down in 2019, despite the scale of the wrongdoing and the harm to millions of customers. No senior including Stumpf or Sloan, faced criminal prosecution. Authorities pursued civil penalties instead, reflecting the legal difficulty of proving individual criminal intent in complex corporate cases. This absence of criminal accountability fueled public debate about whether powerful financial leaders are ever truly held responsible. The lasting damage to Wells Fargo's reputation has been profound. Once seen as one of America's most stable and trustworthy banks, it became a textbook example of how relentless pressure for growth can erode ethical boundaries over time. Authorized, the scandal left behind customers whose financial histories were altered by accounts they never authorized, employees who lost careers for refusing to cheat, and a lingering question for the entire financial system. If such widespread misconduct could persist for years inside one of the most heavily regulated banks in the United States, how often might similar abuses occur elsewhere without ever being uncovered? The Wells Fargo scandal was not just about fake accounts. It was about how pressure, profit, and silence can reshape an entire institution until wrongdoing feels normal. Millions of customers were affected. Thousands of workers lost their jobs, and yet many of the people at the top walked away without criminal charges. Cases like this force us to ask a difficult question. When trust is broken at this scale, who is truly held accountable? If you want more real stories of corporate deception, hidden truths and scandals that shape the world, subscribe to Deception Reports and stay with us, because the next story may be even more disturbing than this one.